Today we are taking a detailed look at the G.I. Joe Classified Series Baroness and her vintage figure from 1984. So hop on your Cobra Coils cycle because we are taking you for the ride of your life. Hey everyone, welcome back to Toy Habits, and today we are taking a detailed look at the G.I. Joe Classified Series Baroness and her Cobra Coils cycle, and as a bonus, we are comparing her to her vintage self from 1984, so let's get right to it. Alright, so let's first take a look at the box, and the Baroness and the Cobra Coil motorcycle come in the G.I. Joe Classified window display box, and this box is delicious. It's huge. You can fit so much on it, so let's take a closer look at the details. Alright, let's first take a look at the art on the box, and I must say that this animation style that they've given the Baroness and the motorcycle is fantastic. I love the way that the Baroness is drawn. She doesn't really have a lot of facial features, so it kind of makes it look like it's pulled straight from a cartoon. I love the perspective of the motorcycle. We see the Baroness on the back, and she is shooting that lovely golden gun at something, and it looks like she is just tearing down the street ready to kick some Joe Heine. Now this box is too big, so I'm going to do this in a couple parts, but wanted to zero in on the snake that she's holding that is shooting a laser, and I think the snake is fantastic the way it's drawn. It looks like it's a mechanical snake, and I love the way it's wrapped around the Baroness's arm. And if we look at the Baroness herself, we see that classic look that she has from the G.I. Joe cartoon with that red symbol on her chest that just screams the Baroness. I also love the way her hair is drawn. You don't see a ton of strands of hair. It's more of a solid block of hair, but I think it really works for this particular art style. And I love the look on her face. She's giving you a side eye, and I wonder what she's thinking here. Alright, so let's take a look at the side of the box and her full body, and as we move up you can see the classic boots that the Baroness has, which is really a nod to her vintage figure, and I love the red cobra symbol with the gold in the background. I love the two golden guns, and that snake dagger on her hip is simply fantastic, and this is one of the most impressive art scenes that I've seen on these particular G.I. Joe classified figure boxes. I really love this one. And on the back of the box, you can see probably the biggest representation of Cobra Island that you will ever see unless they start releasing a lot more vehicles in a much larger scale. But I love the way that they are zooming in on various parts of the island, so let's take a closer look. And at the bottom front of the island, it looks like we have some sort of factory or some installation which is making something. There's a huge gun placement protecting it here, and there is the Terrordrome off to the side, which I'm very excited about. Please make the Terrordrome, Hasbro, please. And on the upper part of the island, you can see a satellite installation, and it looks like they might have Epcot Center up there. I mean, Cobra's got to have some fun, right? And in the middle of the island, close to that volcano, you do have this really huge bunker with this huge gun installment, and you could definitely imagine that there are a bunch of trouble bubbles lined up here ready for action. Alright, and finally let's take a look at what the Baroness is known for. She is a level 4 in intelligence. She is a level 1 at wielding light weapons. She is a level 3 at psyops, which is a new one for me, and a level 4 at disguise, which if you remember from the 80s, she donned many a disguise in that cartoon. And one thing that I want to point out on the front of the box is that there is some adult assembly required here. It looks like they could not fit the handlebar on the motorcycle in this ginormous box. So be ready for that. I don't think you need any tools, but if you're not handy, you might need some help. All right, let's first take a look at the head sculpt, and there is so much to love about this head sculpt. And first, let's take a look at the definition in her face. So they gave her some really strong cheekbones, and I love that the way that her nose is sculpted. It's the most realistic nose that I've seen on a figure in a very long time. Her lips are great, and I love that she has these gold tip glasses, and they just fit the style of the Baroness so perfectly. She also has a very inquisitive look on her face, and for an intelligence officer, I think that's a perfect look. And if you take a look at her hair, the way her hair is sculpted, it goes over the shoulder and down her back. And I love that they gave the hair layers, which makes the hair sculpt a lot more interesting. And because she has hair running down her back, she doesn't have a ton of articulation in her head, but what you do see on her neck is part of her road rash suit, which I really like because if you are riding a motorcycle, you are going to have something to guard your neck if you actually get into an accident. All right, let's take a look at her upper torso, and I love the way that they've used texture and color to differentiate the black Baroness suit that she has. So let's take a closer look at that. And the only way that I can describe this texture is really snakeskin. So what they've done is they've put some gray in mixed in with some black, and they also have some snakeskin also up by her neck. And the way that this is molded and sculpted, it actually looks like she is wearing a shirt, which is pretty fantastic. And they also gave her a very nice piece of chest armor that has some layers and definition to it, very reminiscent of the vintage figure, which we will see in a few minutes. All right, next let's take a look at her belt and her holsters, and I love this red cobra symbol that is right smack dab in the middle of her belt. It is textured and it's the perfect color and size for this particular holster, and I love the detail that they have on the straps here. It almost looks like leather, and you can see that she has some pouches on her belt. And if you turn her around, this is the money shot. I love that they put these holsters angled like this on her backside. I think they will look fantastic with her golden guns once we show you all of the accessories that she comes with. And while I have her on her backside, one design decision that I'm not sure I really like very much is just the decision to put this texture right kind of up the middle of her butt crack. I actually wish that they would have left that black, so we just have a nice straight piece there. I don't think she really needed any texturing to go in the middle of her hind quarters. And let's take a look at her arms, and her forearm armor has these red cobra symbols on them, which look great. It's made of like a glossy black plastic, and they really shine and really give off a lot of definition to her forearm armor. And again, you see the use of texture and color here. So you do see that gray snakeskin mixed in with the black here. And if you look at the shoulder armor, it does look like it resembles a snake just a little bit, but wait until you see the other side of her shoulder armor, because that's the most impressive piece. And turning her around to the left side, here is that other piece of shoulder armor. It looks fantastic. It looks like it's a snake just coming out of her shoulder and just biting right into her shoulder. I think that's a really, really cool detail and very cool sculpt that they added to this figure. And you can see the eyes right here and also the fangs just digging in as best they can. And taking a closer look at her legs, we can get a glimpse of this amazing dagger holder that she has on the side of her leg here. It is removable, but I'm not sure how to get it off without breaking it, so I'm not going to try. And I love the sculpting detail that they have on there, and the belt and the strap detail just looks really realistic here. I just really love the way this piece is molded, and I can't wait to see the snake dagger fit right in there. And while we have her here, we do also see the snakeskin texture that they have, but what I really love are these thigh-high boots that she has, and this is really reminiscent of her vintage figure, and I can't wait to see the similarities and differences with the vintage figure and this one, because her thigh-high boots are just sculpted so magnificently. And speaking of her boots, when we get down to the shoe part, they are very pointy, and I do love this little gold accent buckle that they added here. I think that's a great addition and just completes the look of this figure. And the Baroness comes with a lot of weapons and a lot of goodies, so let's get down to it. So here is one of her guns that mounts to the side of the motorcycle, and I really love the shape of the gun, and I love the way that this piece is curved up top. It just gives this gun a very unique look. and a lot of the sculpting detail is very thick on here, and I just love the way that this gun is made, and I can't wait to see it on the motorcycle. Speaking of motorcycles, she also comes with a helmet, and this helmet is sculpted really nicely with a lot of detail here, and it looks like there is a lot of vent detail on the sides that you can see, and just the top of the helmet and the crest of the head looks really cool. It's very angular and very aerodynamic. Can't wait to see that on her as well. One of my favorite pieces to her accessories is this mechanical snake looking laser gun thing that she has. I just think this is just the coolest piece that you could have for a Cobra figure. And I love that there is gold mixed in with silver. It kind of looks a little Terminator-esque, like Skynet has made this piece for Cobra. And if you look closely, it does have a gun coming out of its mouth. It looks like it has a couple little eyes here, and it's supposed to wrap around the Baroness's arm, which we will see in a few. Next up is the guns, and these guns are painted gold, which is the perfect color for the Baroness. And not a ton of detail here, but I think it was an excellent choice to make these gold because it's just going to pop when they're in the holsters on her back. And lastly, let's take a look at this dagger. Now, this dagger is pretty special. It's a very tiny Cobra piece that, if I can get this thing to focus, there we go. You can see all the detail here, and you can see that it's a mini replica of a king cobra snake, and it is part of the hilt of the handle. And I think this dagger is just a fantastic piece, and I love that they painted this particular head of the snake gold. And here she is all geared up with that mechanical snake wrapped around her arm, which looks amazing. And I love the way the guns look in the holsters, and also that dagger on the side of her hip, and was a really great choice to go with gold for these accessories, because if you just made them black, they would have gotten lost in her black suit. So makes the guns and accessories really pop the way that they're done here. And here's a look from the back, and I think this figure looks amazing with all the gear and accessories that she has here. And here is the Baroness with her helmet on, and just a quick pop of the head, and you can snap her helmet on, and she looks great from the front, but as soon as you turn her around, it starts to get a little weird. You can see her neck articulation here, and you can see just a large part of her neck, and I really wish that they had made this helmet go down to her base of her neck just to cover up this part here, because it looks really weird. And here how she looks with the motorcycle, and I think she looks pretty badass standing next to this motorcycle, but let's take a closer detailed look at the Coils cycle. I must say that I'm not a fan of motorcycles in the G.I. Joe line except for the Ram cycle, but I can appreciate the sculpting detail and effort that they put into this sculpt. So for example, the tires are huge. I actually love these huge tires that are on the front of the bike, and they also have the engine detail that you can see here, and I love that they have like the shocks and struts detail, and I love that they put a triple exhaust on here, so I think it just makes the bike look more like a rocket. And I love the way that the front of the shield is designed. I love that it goes from a clear to this green, and it's very Cobra-esque. The front headlights have a lot of detail on them, and I love that the Cobra symbols are on the bike on both sides. And if you look, you can see the dials and also the handlebar detail as well. And if you notice, the handlebars actually pivot a little bit, so you don't have to get the Baroness quite on there exactly right, as she will be able to maneuver this bike while she has her hands on it. And another detail that I would love to point out is just the leathery look of this seat. I think it adds just an extra cool factor, and again, they're using texture to differentiate various parts of this vehicle. Overall, I really like this bike actually, and the use of reds here complement the reds in the front. So I love the way that the red brakes bleed up into this plastic molding here, and you also get the effect of this red in the back of the bike here, which is covering the brake pads, and also it gives the Baroness's foot a place to rest. And here is an angle with the guns that are placed on the side, and I actually don't really particularly like this look with the guns on the side. I think it cheapens it, so I think I'm going to just take them off and just display them without the guns, because I think it just makes the motorcycle look that much better. And here is the Baroness on the bike, and I must say she looks fabulous on this bike, and they really did a great job just molding this particular bike to the figure. And one thing that I really wish that they did is I wish that they had put some foot pegs on these footrests, because it does look weird to have her foot flaring out a little bit, but it still doesn't detract from the awesomeness of her on the bike. But which look do you prefer? Her helmeted look or her look without the helmet? Let us know in the comments below. All right, now let's look at the Baroness compared to her vintage figure from 1984, and there are a lot of similarities, and I think this G.I. Joe classified figure just pays a nice homage to the vintage Baroness. So let's take a look at the similarities. And the most obvious similarities that you'll see are in the head sculpt, and both figures have glasses on them, and the Baroness from 1984 has a more rounded glasses, and the classified figure just has a more updated look, which I think complements the face very nicely. The hair is also very similar, although they gave the Baroness on the classified line a part on her left side, and they parted the Baroness's hair from 1984 in the middle. Very similar chest designs with the Cobra logos in the middle, although the Baroness from 84 has some straps that look like they attach to the armor, where it looks like the classified figure, they just built the armor into that chest piece. And I think one of the coolest design elements that they did put on the classified Baroness was this addition of this red cobra symbol on her forearm here, which pays homage to the 1984 version. If you can see, the black cobra symbol is sculpted into her forearm right there, which I think is a great homage to this figure. And lastly, they did give the Baroness these thigh-high boots that were also present in the vintage figure. And what you'll notice right off the bat is there is no hole for any backpack to fit on the Baroness, and it makes sense because, oops. And let's try this again. One thing you'll notice that there is no hole or any way for a backpack to attach to the classified Baroness, which is a bummer because I really love the vintage figures Baroness's backpack. It just looks like a very cool design, and I think they could have integrated a backpack in here somewhere, because she does carry a helmet, and I think there must have been a way that they could have done a backpack on this figure. I think that was a big miss, and it just kind of leaves out a part of the Baroness that we all know from the vintage figures. I think this is one of the better figures in the line, as it checks all of the boxes that make it so unique and special. I love her accessories and how the colors really complement this figure, as well as her head sculpt. I think she looks amazing on the Cobra Coils cycle, and they couldn't have picked a better figure to pair with it. Are you a fan of the helmet on or the helmet off look? Personally, I love the helmet off look, but watch your back. There might be a golden gun pointing at you and you don't even know it. Let us know what you think about this figure by commenting below, and please hit that subscribe button so you can get alerted to new G.I. Joe classified figure reviews as we are closing out Yo-Jo June.